Good night, members and residents of E.C.S.Catherine, supporters of the People's National Party. First, I want to thank you for your continued support for the PNP, even though we are not at our highest point at this particular point in time. And when friends are few, that's when you know who your true friends are. I also want to congratulate Comrade Raymond Price for sticking to the task, and I am sure that with your help and assistance, he will be victorious for the next election to come. I'm asking as well for your continued support and for your greatest efforts for our councillor candidates who have been committed for the last 4 to 5 years with constant changes of election dates and on the ground throughout the period of COVID. I ask that you show your mettle and show your intent for change in the upcoming elections by supporting your councillors to win in the local government elections. I'm sorry I can't be here with you tonight because I am now participating in Father's Day activities. And to that extent, I'll be celebrating in Hanover with my family. However, the next conference, and I'll see you on the road as well, even before the next conference. Basically, we just want to remind you, the members of the People's National Party, the supporters of the People's National Party, and in particular, the members of E.C.S.Catherine, of what it is to be a member of the People's National Party and why it is that we support the People's National Party. I also want to tell you why it is important to vote. It is important to vote if you in any way think that the system or the society is not what you want it to be. If it is not exactly what you want it to be, then your vote is for change. And in this change is change for the better. That's important to point out because change have both a direction and a distance. It can change and change for the worse. So therefore, you want to ensure that whenever you speak to change, you speak to both the direction, change for the better, and the distance. A lot of change, a little change, middle amount of change. It depends on what your perception of your current society is. If you think there's a need for change, then it is necessary that you participate in electing individuals that are likely to change, as there are only 3 methods for change. The first is the power of wealth, the second is the power of weapon, and the third is the power of the people. Those without access to wealth is disqualified from the first, and there is no individual that can outgun a government. And therefore, the only thing really available to most Jamaicans for political change, and by extension, systematic change, is the power of people. Politics is that effort to organize people so that they are more powerful than wealth and more powerful than weapon. The unfortunate reality in our last 2 to 3 decades is that weapons and wealth have out-enumerated people because many of our people have refused to be organized through the political processes and to participate in that effort for change. Having established that there is indeed a need and a necessity for voting, and I was recently watching a Martin Luther King speech where it was highlighted to me for the first time that the I Have a Dream speech with that Million Man March was really about blacks' right to vote in the southern states of the United States. And so, therefore, even at that time, Martin Luther King and many others recognized that if the blacks could not vote, they would not be satisfactorily represented. And if they could not vote, they could not change. Having decided that you will participate, that you will vote, and that you will go and encourage others to vote, next question is whom or what or why should you vote for the PNP? And the difference is that the PNP has a history of change. And the history is important because history can give confidence that it is likely to continue. So if a person, for example, Usain Bolt, have a history of winning, then whenever he's running, I'll bet on Usain Bolt because it's just likely that he'll continue to win. And if others have, Justin have a history of losing, then when he's running, I will be against him because he's just likely to continue. The PNP has been the essence of change from the days of Norman Manley with political change. So even with the whole festival debacle right now, we're celebrating independence brought to you by the People's National Party and Norman Manley. That independence as a concept at the broad level, the macro level of a nation is important, but also at the micro level of a person is very important. And I'm saddened that we're not having this celebration taken seriously, and we're not having the excitement one would expect for the 60th anniversary. And it's partially not because we're tired of festival. Festival is a celebration of something. And it seems to me that we're tired of that concept of independence. We see people wantonly willing to beg. We see people unwilling to strive and demand for their own independence. And by extension, without that acceptance of the micro independence, there seems to be a rejection of the macro independence, the nation's independence. It was also Norman Manley that gave us universal adult suffrage, the fact that all persons could vote even if they couldn't afford taxes. Before that, only those who could afford taxes had the right to vote. The second and most important change that happened was under Michael Manley, and that was the ideological change, the concept that you are someone. And that is very important, especially because when you think you're a backdoor boy, even when the front door is open, you will seek the back door. Which meant that children born outside of wedlock could have inherited land and other assets from their parents for the first time because they were not recognized while the Bastard Act existed. It meant that Michael Manley introduced maternity leave with pay, minimum wage, NHT, JAMAL, land for the landless, true land lease. All those things gave many normal black Jamaicans a true stake and place within the society, and an acceptance and understanding that they and their children could take a pride of place within the Jamaican society. Then PJ Patterson came with the infrastructure change. There's no one, Highway 2000, the Spanish invasion as it relates to hotels in Negril, Montego Bay, all the Rios, all the palladiums, etc., came under PJ Patterson. The airport expansions came under PJ Patterson. Multiple schools under PJ Patterson. The removal of the shift system started under PJ Patterson, and the transfer from secondary schools where persons were not even allowed to the CXC but SSC, and having all schools being high schools came under PJ Patterson. PATH program came under PJ Patterson. Operation Pride came under PJ Patterson. And all those things were the understanding that infrastructure was going to be the foundation of our development. It is now important that we try to facilitate social change, and that must be the mandate of the People's National Party moving forward, to ensure that a street sweeper's son can become a doctor, but at the same time to suggest that a doctor's son may eventually become a street sweeper depending on their talent and depending on their efforts. That is going to be difficult because the doctor will always want to ensure that his son remain a doctor if there's going to be a swap in the society. It is that effort that those who are not blessed initially with ownership of assets must work through their political party to get a more level playing field, so that we don't have 200 schools of which 40% have a 50% chance of getting 5 subjects and 60% have a less than 50% chance of getting 5 subjects. There should be no reason for schools in the secondary education level having a 2% chance of getting 5 subjects, because we know that our children can learn. I said to those who have children in the audience and the children that are there in the audience, that if you can walk and you can talk, you can learn. Nobody never born to walk, you learn to walk. Nobody born to talk, you learn to talk. And so there should be nothing that convinces you were bright at 9 months but done at 19. So I'm going to suggest to those who have children in the audience and the children in the audience that if knowledge is power, you can't say power if you don't say knowledge. So education is a central theme of the People's National Party, and is going to be the core basis for social change, because the next revolution is not a revolution of the muscle, but a revolution of the mind, a revolution that understands that muscle is no longer the basis of job creation and job receival, because once upon a time 50 people had to mix cement is replaced by a premix truck. Once upon a time 40 people clear a land is replaced by a weed whacker. Once upon a time, many of our women could go and have a job to wash clothes replaced by a washing machine, or clean house, which is now replaced by what I saw recently, an iRobot, where you press it and it clean your house by the time you come back from work. So with muscle no longer being the basis of development, we have to ensure that our children's minds are developed. I congratulate you for coming out. I congratulate Raymond Price and his team for putting on, once again, a necessary conference. And I look forward to seeing you on the road, putting forward ideas and plans so that the People's National Party can be very ready to change the nation in the way that it needs to be changed. Thank you, and I'm sorry I could not be there today. Respect, all to the people.